You look better. You feel better? That was when we were in high school 60 years ago.
Morning, how are you? Good, and you? Morning, everybody. Good morning.
How are you?
Good. You good to see you? You got a forearm, so that's good.
Yeah, we went for some sun too.
Oh, yeah. I live outside.
We were out of there too.
Mel's online?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mel.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, Mel.
Good morning. Everybody looks very cheerful.
Bah humbug. I said bah humbug.
I wonder if you guys went to the Spotted Dog this morning before you went and attended the meeting.
Morning. Bring that for everybody? Huh? Did you bring that for everybody?
I don't know if you want or would like to keep it.
The temperature? Yeah, it's supposed to be like 90. I just heard they had a 60 to 70% chance of rain tonight. All right, that'd be good. Yeah. My water bill's gonna be pretty high. Morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good morning. I was looking at lake levels at Elephant Butte. I can't believe that they're still letting the water run out and the water level is so low.
Well, I think it's gonna build the river from Texas,
Yeah,
because I think the water that's coming through here now is,
yeah,
it's going to Texas, maybe even Mexico, farther down.
I don't know, that agreement was,
That was not smart move.
I just hope. And now they're trying to say that the groundwater belongs to them too.
Yeah, they're making that claim. That's really a stretch. So we should turn around and say, well, the oil in West Texas is ours, then it's under wraps. We'll claim that one. We'll do a trade. You can have water, take the oil.
Oh, well, it is what it is.
We're having a good time.
See, where Albuquerque's dried up, the river's dried up.
They said first time in 4 years. You get them both times or just one? Dry. Just, on the one I sent to you. That's going from, I have to check that email out. Still can't. Except girl.
And then talking about all the bodies that they've been finding out there. Well, at Elephant Butte, they found a bunch of bodies too, but it was from old cemeteries.
Oh, really?
Yep. Native and
Wow.
settlers.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I used to Florida, doing it. They were neighbors, the developer had bought the land.
When everyone has something.
Bring that egg?
No, I'll go there. Whatever.
I put it for you.
But they could
come across the street, they found out that the building up on the house was right on the edge of it. And they went out there with the ultrasound things and they checked. Grades out there. So they said you can't develop that. And, yeah, essentially stopped working. They got permission.
Anyway, technology works on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's been a really, really good thing, but it's also really, really bad.
So anyway, it actually is a disagreement between First Sea people and Native Americans. One they pulled up and that's where the original her name is Angela. So they nicknamed the spot Canada. We can't claim for her. Anyway, so.
You ready? Eileen, are you ready? You want, sorry, want to do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Zargis,
Present.
Commissioner Herrera,
Here.
Commissioner Montañez,
Present.
Commissioner Lear,
Here.
Commissioner Castañeda,
Here.
Commissioner Acosta,
Present.
Chair Zerniak.
Here. Thank you. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Move approval of the agenda as presented.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Could I get a motion for approval of the minutes of the meeting for June 23rd, 2022?
I'll move that we approve the minutes from the regular meeting of June 23rd, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is approved. No old business. We'll go to item number 5, new business. Case number Z 22-006. Albert, I believe you have the floor.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Albert Casillas, 845 North Motel Boulevard.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commission. For our first case today, hold on. I'll just go down there. Our first case today is going to be a zone change request. The owner of the property is Picacho Valley Group, LLC, the applicant being Mr. Josh Bayer. This property is located just right up the road here on Burke Road and West Picacho. The current zoning is D2, which is medium density residential. And it does have like a little strip right at the southern property line of C2, which is community commercial. So this parcel, it's 7.26 acres. We're going to go from that D2 and that C2 zoning into 5.88 acres of C2, and then we're going to have one tract of 1.35 acres of C3. And this is in order to operate a UTV and ATV repair, fabrication, accessory, and maintenance shop. Here is the location map. You basically have the Rio Grande right here. We have West Picacho Avenue. This dark line right here pretty much delineates city limits, so it's right at the border of the city limits and the county. So we got the river, we got West Picacho. And here's just a close-up of the property. We see West Picacho Road. We see Burke Road over here on the right, and then this is the Del Rio drain. And then over here on the left, we have a Hoskins Lane. And here's just a zoning map. So everything in gray is pretty much city limits. I believe I did include a zoning map for the city of Las Cruces, but basically everything here in gray, it's either, well, especially here, it's still commercial, and down here, there's a little bit of industrial and also commercial. But the zoning map, this is the subject parcel, basically that little red strip is a C2 designation. The rest of the property is pretty much D2, and as well as everything behind it, it's also D2. Across the river, you have your I1s and your C2s as well. So just a little history on the property. Back in 2008, when it was still under the ETZ, the original zoning was ER4M, residential. And back then, the request was to go to EC2. Basically, they wanted to do a commercial development back then, but it was never built. So then around the time we were adopting the Unified Development Code, around 2017, we had Underwood Engineering getting approval for case number C17001. And that's how, that's how the property ended up looking like it is today. You got that D2 designation on the majority of it, and then with the C2 strip down towards the bottom. So this was really interesting. This was basically the first zone change request under the UDC. When they applied, they were still under ETC, so once the UDC got adopted, they had to reapply back again to get approval under UDC standards. But back then, back in 2017, the request was basically to create a 62 lot mobile home subdivision on all those D2 parcels that are behind the subject parcel. And basically the front was going to, remain commercial. That little strip was going to remain commercial along with the strip that's on the city side. But that subdivision was never developed. So what's being proposed right now? So right now we have Picacho right here. This is going to be the main entrance. So this is going to be the shop, the mechanic and repair shop right here. The rest of the property is going to be for, the rest of the property here is going to be zoned that C2 designation. So basically we have the majority being C2, and then where the shop's going to be located, that's the part that they want for C3. And here's just a proposed survey of that area. So here you can kind of see the line where city limits and the county jurisdiction start. This is just a zoom out of some of the land uses that are out there. Pretty much right now the property's pretty much vacant, as well as those remaining parcels behind it. You got the river, and then across the river, that's where you have Mesilla Valley Transportation and their mechanic shops. You got Picacho Brewery, you got Dickerson's Barn, Lucchini's, a couple of repair shops out there as well. This is a view of West Picacho, and we're looking west, but basically this is the subject parcel right here. So this front part is it has a C2 designation as well with the city. Across the road down here, you have a couple warehouses. You have a Farmer's Insurance, and I think there's a place here where they rent kind of like canoes and that kind of stuff. Here we're looking back east. This is Brick Road. And I don't know if you can kind of see, but there's already an entrance here off of West Picacho. Here's the subject parcel. We're basically looking north. And this is Hoskins Lane, which is it is a private road. And here's the subject parcel. And then just some of the buildings that are right across the street. There's also about a 300-foot antenna back there. And a picture of Brick Road and the Del Rio Drain. So these are the sections of the code that talk about the zone change evaluation requirements. We did send out 19 letters to surrounding property owners, ads on the newspaper, and signs were posted on the property. No letters in opposition or in favor of the request were received. That's one of the signs that was posted on the property. Those are the properties that were notified. So when we're looking at 203D1 of the criteria, we're not proposing any additional homes. It's going to be for a commercial use. The property was previously zoned commercial when the UDC was adopted. The previous developer requested the zone change to residential because they were going to install a sewer system that would allow smaller lots. That residential development was never done. For traffic flows, they are looking at 81 trips per day, peak hours of 10 in the AM and 11 for PM. Access will be from West Picacho, and they will be required to receive approval from New Mexico DOT driveway. And I believe that they've already, started talking with Maria Hinojos with the DOT, so those talks have already started. The zone change will allow the vacant property to be used in a manner consistent with other surrounding commercial properties such as Allied Van Lines Moving Company, you got Lucchini's Towing and Recovery, and Mesilla Valley Transportation. Doña Ana Mutual Domestic will be providing water, and sewer will be provided by a septic tank. There is an existing 12-inch water main with sufficient capacity to serve the very small water demand for this commercial building. Picacho Avenue is a principal arterial that has sufficient capacity to serve the traffic flows anticipated with this commercial development. The property was utilized for farming and has been fallow for a number of years. Property does not contain any existing buildings or structures. No known endangered or rare species of animal or plant life are on the property. So we already saw the surrounding areas. It is kind of like a mix of farming, commercial, and industrial. The applicant states that they will be using best practices during construction of the ATV shop, and will submit any SWIP documentation that's required during the construction phase of the project. So staff believes that they meet this section of the coding criteria. When it comes to the comp plan, we can look at goal G2.2 just to make sure that, to ensure the regulations support the plan requirements, and also supporting regional small-scale businesses under goal G6.7. For Miller criteria, when we look at sufficient change of conditions, when we look at a history of the surrounding area, when it comes to SUPs and zone changes, there's been quite a few that go from residential to commercial and industrial. Prior to 2008, the property was already zoned EC2, so it started off as commercial before they got that residential designation in 2008, and then from there it just kind of flip-flops. But in 2008, the change in condition was that the sewer lift station and sewer service proposed during the last zone change was going to be installed. So that was what they looked at in 2008, but that never happened. So we're kind of, staff is saying basically that is a change of condition, that back then something was proposed and never happened, and in the zone change rules, we don't have them like in the SUPs, where in SUPs it's like if you don't build it within a year, then it reverts back to what the original zoning or use was. So we don't have that under zone changes. When we look at previous cases, so this is now in city limits, but this is basically the county building where it went from a holding zone to EC2. We have, this is the subject parcel right here. Kennels were approved down here. Back in the 80s, somebody was proposing a church here. They got approval for it, but it was never done. We have the Jehovah's Witness Church right here. This property went from residential to industrial. This is Mesilla Valley Transportation. Back here we have Picacho Brewery, Dickerson's Barn, the corn maze, mechanic shops, and that kind of stuff out here. So all those were cases that involved some type of SUP or a zone change to commercial or industrial. When it comes to spot zoning, we don't believe that this is a spot zone. The proposed zone change is in harmony with surrounding areas of the subject property and blends in with the City of Las Cruces zoning of C2C, M2C, and C3. The size of the development is appropriate for the area, and there will be a benefit to the community by increasing the availability of commercial related services. This is just a screenshot of what the city has on their zoning map. That's Burke Road. So we got that C2C designation. You got C3 right across Picacho, and M2C, which is kind of like their manufacturing zoning designation. Under the current zone, they do have that D2 medium density residential. What's being proposed by the applicant is basically an expansion of the existing C2. So there's numerous types of uses that are available, but I ended up highlighting automobile related repair and service, but not auto painting or body work. So it's just in case there's a question or some concern of why not the entire property be C2. Why are we splitting it up between C2 and C3? Well, on the applicant's request, they're also, they're going to be assembling and manufacturing, some of their parts. So the C3 would cover that under, body work. The C3 does allow for body work, painting, and that kind of stuff, but it's not allowed under the C2. So that's why they're requesting that C3 designation specifically on that 1 acre parcel where the shop is being proposed. Staff findings, they're including in your packet, but basically the zone change request for C2 and C3 does satisfy the decisional criteria for the zone change. We believe it is appropriate as there is compatible existing commercial development and zoning designations surrounding this property. We don't believe it's going to be considered a spot zone. There's not a significant conflict with the comprehensive plan, and it does meet some of the goals of the comp plan. So we are recommending conditional approval of this request. 3 conditions. The first one being that they get their DOT driveway permit. Second of all, during the building permitting stage, that's when they're going to submit their detailed site plans, construction drawings, grading and drainage plans for review and approval. And we're also proposing a buffer class 3, and this is going to be along the west property lines. This is basically to buffer, the 7 acres from those properties west of the property. And that's just an example of what the buffer class 3 looks like. But that's our presentation, and we stand for questions, and the applicant is here present.
Albert, can you go back to the detailed property map? So he's requesting, I just want to be clear about this, he's requesting a C3 in this one corner?
That is correct, yes. Basically, that's where they're proposing to do the mechanic shop.
And that's compatible with the City of Las Cruces zoning that's already there?
This would be C2. That's right here. So we got C2 and C2, and this would be C3. Right across the street, that's where you have your C3s and your C2s and your manufacturings as well.
Well, what I'm asking is that city property that's there, that allows for the same type of activity as what he's asking the C3 to do?
They're pretty much the same.
Okay. And then C2 on the rest of the property?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't say this, but that opaque screening, you want that to go all the way up the west side of the property line, right?
Yeah, basically, when the applicant comes in for this property right here, there's going to be some buffering and landscaping requirements. That condition, the third condition for buffering over here, is basically when they start getting ready to start developing the rest of the property, that's what's going to be required out there, a C3, a class 3 landscaping and buffer.
Okay. Other questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a couple questions. Just to clarify, the line of trees that's on the west edge of the large piece, not the small corner one. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
The class 3 buffer will be on the west property line of the entire parcel.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I stated right now, when they come in for a building permit for this shop, that's going to require its own landscaping buffering as well.
And also, you said something about a driveway coming in off of Picacho.
Yeah, there's already one there.
But the map you just showed right there showed the entry point coming off of Burke Road.
No, but Burke Road would be right over here.
Okay, go to the next map there. That shows, it looks like it's coming in off of Burke Road.
And like I said, I mean.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is
all right.
all within their.
That's on the property.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was mistaken. I thought that one going north and south was Burke Road.
This is the
Okay.
drain right here, and then you got Burke Road over here.
All right, thank you.
So just to be clear, there are no access points from Picacho other than Burke Road.
From Picacho, this is the only access point that's being proposed right now.
Thank you.
Any future access points, of course, they would have to go through DOT for approval.
Also, Albert, is there any, does this meet the requirement for the distance between Burke Road and the driveway?
We're not sure yet. They
Okay.
still have to go through Maria Hinojosa with DOT for that approval. But Marty Pillar, the applicant's engineer, he's here, and he can probably address that question.
Also, so they're not proposing a turn lane. It's just going to be a driveway off of Picacho.
For now, that's all that's being proposed, this example right here.
Okay.
Anyone else? Let's hear from the applicant. She has to swear you in.
Excuse me. Good morning. Please state your right hand. Excuse me. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Josh Byer. Address is 3068 McDowell Road, Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you guys for having me. Josh Byer, lifelong resident of Las Cruces. Been in business for myself now going on about 16 years in Las Cruces, Doñana County. Business, I'm moving over here. We're currently renting a building out in the county and looking to expand. We've grown quite a bit in the last couple of years that we've opened it up and just looking to have a larger property and continue to grow in the Doñana County area.
Mr. Byer, you own the whole piece of property?
I'm actually in the process of purchasing it from Picacho Valley Group. Right now, we are already have everything in holdings with them, and it was contingent on getting it rezoned. So as soon as this goes through, then we will purchase the property and move forward with getting the building permits.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Byer? You want to add anything else?
I don't think so. I appreciate your time and you guys looking into it and let us move forward with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone here in favor or opposition that would like to speak? All right. Any other discussion from the commission?
Well-
All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, just for clarity here, Albert, you did mention, as I do remember this, this case changing from D2, so none of this remaining parcel would completely eliminate all the prior D2 designation for.
Yeah, so basically, everything's going to be
Like C2. and then
C2, except for
C3.
that corner right here. That'll be a C3.
Thank you.
I'm going to close the audience participation. I need a motion.
I'll move conditional approval of case Z 22006, zone change on 7.26 acres from D2 to C2, community commercial, 5.88 acres of C2, and 1.35 acres of C3, zoning districts in order to operate a UTV, ATV, repair, fabrication, accessory, and maintenance shop with the following conditions: that access to the property will be from West Picacho, and the applicant will submit an approved DOT driveway permit for commercial use, that the applicant shall submit detailed site plan for review and be prepared, and that shall be prepared by a professional engineer, architect, or surveyor licensed in the state of New Mexico at the time of submitting a building permit. And that a Class 3 buffer opaque screen should be required along the west property line. Buffer shall have a width of 20 feet, composed of a screen that is opaque from the ground and a minimum height of 6 feet, using a solid wall or fence with intermittent visual obstruction to a height of 20 feet, with a minimum of 75% visual obstruction along the buffer length.
Dan, did you say second? Oh, Ernie, thank you, okay. Eileen, would you call a roll, please?
Commissioner Herrera?
Yes.
Commissioner Zarges?
Yes?
Commissioner Montañez?
Yes.
Commissioner Lear?
Yes.
Commissioner Castañeda?
Yes.
Commissioner Acosta?
Mel?
Mel? He's taking a potty break.
Mel, are you with us? I guess we'll vote, mark him as an abstain.
Commissioner Zerniak?
Aye. Motion's approved. You can get with staff to talk about the specifics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Byer.
Case number SU 22-013.
Thank you.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Albert Casillas, 845 North Motel Boulevard.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Commissioners, our second case today, it's a special use permit request. The applicant is Mr. Hector Martinez, and he's here present today. And this property is located on 401 McCombs Road. So it's basically on the northeast corner of McCombs and Paseo Real Drive. Existing zoning is T5, and the request is to operate a cannabis micro-business establishment for production, manufacturing, and the retail sales of cannabis within 300 feet of a residential area. So here's a location map of the property. Basically, you have Lisa up here on the north, and then you make that right turn into McCombs, and the property will be here between Paseo Real and Paloma Blanca Drive. Here is an aerial of the property, kind of like zooming out, just looking at what's there along McCombs. So this is the subject parcel. It's basically composed of two 1 acre lots. So they are separated. This is Paseo Real. Down here, you might recall, this is we have the gas station and Steyer's. A couple months ago, we talked about one shop here at 308 McCombs for. I forgot the applicant's name, but that's kind of like the area of where we're at. It is T5. It is two 1 acre properties. It is assessed as residential right now. There is an existing mobile home on the property that has already been sold, and it will be removed. We got water being provided by Colquitt, sewer being provided by Doñana County. Back about almost 20 years ago, the property did receive approval of a PDNR application. So back then, that's kind of like what people would use to kind of operate a commercial operation on property out there in Chaparral. So this non-residential application was to approve the Grand Chaparral Mobile Homes. So it's basically a mobile home dealership. That's what it was 20 years ago. This property was acquired by the current owner last year in August. Access is off of McCombs and Paseo Real Drive, which are both county maintained right-of-ways. And here we have a close, so this is a 2018 aerial. We got Paseo Real down here. We have McCombs. Mobile home's no longer there. This is just pretty much what's remaining on the property. There's 2 access points onto the property. One's off of McCombs right here, and one off of Paseo Real. For the proposal, the applicant's only proposing 1 access point off of Paseo Real. When we look at the zoning map, it's basically this corridor of T5 designations, and everything behind the T5, either to the west or the east, and that's all basically a T3. Some of the larger parcels, we can tell that they're already T2. This orange right here means that they're designated for a mobile home park. And then just kind of to summarize the request, Mr. Martinez submitted his application on June 8th. So the SUP in itself, it's basically to reduce the direct line measurement requirement of 300 feet to a residential area in order to operate the cannabis retail establishment. So this is just, if we separate the uses, the SUP is basically just for the retail portion of the proposal. Under T5, if he was just producing or manufacturing products, it is an allowed use by right in the T5 zone. So we're here today, just to, we can consider the whole thing as one, but in reality, it's just because there are residential areas within 300 feet of this subject parcel. The applicant's proposing a pre-engineered and prefabricated 50 by 50 metal structure to house the production, manufacturing, and retail facility. They already have a 6-foot chain link fence surrounding the property. There's electricity, there's sewer, there's gas, and there's water. Hours of operation are what's being proposed, it's 10 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday through Sunday. The facility will also provide two drive-through windows as well as a walk-in service. Entrance to the facility will be from Paseo Real. And here's just the overall site plan. We have El Paseo Real down here with the entrance being on the southern portion of the property. We see the parking area, we see some ponding, and then this is going to be where the structure is going to be located. And then just to kind of like zoom in of the proposal. So he's coming in from the southern lot, and you can make him out here, but that's the drive-through window that's being proposed on each side of the property. So they're basically coming in, driving around the property, and then exiting out. And there's also the walk-in service that's being proposed as well.
So Albert, there is no access off McCombs?
That's not being proposed.
Okay.
When we look at the floor plan, basically right here, you have the flowering room, you have a clone room. This is going to be a manufacturing room right here. We have a secure room. This is going to be where they're going to be storing some of the product. And then in front of the building, that's where they're going to have the counters and the lobbies for retail. 20 letters of notification were mailed out. So everything was posted on the Sun News. Signs were posted. This morning, I did get this email that I just sent it out today. And they're from the property owners immediately north of the subject parcel. They couldn't make it in today because they're from out of state, but they still wanted to submit their input as part of the record. And then just to clarify, they're against the request. Here's some pictures of the signs that were posted on the parcel. And those were the properties that were notified. So here we're looking at the entrance from Paseo Real. This is on the southern property line. You can see back there that's the existing mobile home.
I'm sorry, is that the adjacent property that's in this?
No, this is the subject parcel. So we're looking at the property north from Paseo Real. And this is just one of the entrances that they have right now. I took that picture right here. So we're looking north. And here we're just looking back, we're looking east along Paseo Real. Here's that, you see the old sign that they had for the mobile home dealership. That's the existing home that's there. And this is just what the rest of the property looks like. It's pretty much vacant, and there's gravel laid out. Some of the surrounding areas, we got one of the banks out there in Chaparral along McCombs. This would be on the southwest corner of that intersection. And then on the northwest, we have the laundromat and the car wash. And this is right across from the subject parcel. And here we're just looking north on McCombs with the subject parcel being here on the right. When we look at the decision criteria, these are some of the requirements that are being called out for the SUP. We look at 204.D for the criteria for special use permits. We also look at the 502.G, which talks about the cannabis establishments, and that's where it's calling out the 300-foot distance between retailers and the distance to residential areas as well. And then we have a definition of cannabis retailer right here under the glossary. Also, you all know that the New Mexico House Bill 2 was approved by the state, which basically allowed for the Cannabis Regulation Act. We adopted our codes in December of last year, and sales of cannabis started April of this year. So when we look at the land use matrix, cannabis retail is allowed, but on the T5 zone, but then you have to meet the other sections of the code, and that's where it's calling out that 300-foot buffer from residential area. In this case, there are areas located adjacent to this property, and I provided a map in there to show the distance to the physical structure itself. The nearest mobile home is approximately 350 feet from the proposed cannabis retail building. But of course, it's right up to, to the subject property. Other uses that are allowed in T5 by right, you can have apartments, laundries, convenience stores, gas stations, retail facilities, medium or large, bars, pubs, taverns, wine tasting room, auto repair shops, and that kind of stuff. Also light manufacturing on T5. And here's that map, but basically, if we were to apply that 300-foot distance requirement, it would be from this corner right here to that corner right there. That's how the code reads. That's what's triggering the SUP today. I had Frank Dodd from GIS just provide me with a map just to see exactly, we wanted to see how close those dwellings were to the proposed location of the cannabis retail shop, and on there, we can see that they exceed pretty much more than 300 feet. But the direct interpretation of the code, it has to be to the property, not the building. And this is just our cheat sheet for cannabis uses. We got T5, micro businesses are allowed. Retails are allowed, but you got to meet the 300-foot buffer. Potential traffic flows, staff believes they're going to be minimal. The applicant states that he's only going to have about 3 or 4 people employed on site. Access is going to be from Paseo Real Drive. The need for new commercial or residential activity, New Mexico approved the Cannabis Regulation Act. Retail sales started on April 1st of this year. And it's just because of the surrounding residential areas that are, requiring this approval of an SUP for retail. Colquitt will provide water, wastewater services will be handled by Doña Ana County. There is existing infrastructure in place to support the proposed use. There's been no evidence submitted that there are endangered or rare species of animal and plant life in the area. The property is going to have to meet all security measures as required by the Cannabis Control Division. So they're going to have to put the fences, which is already up, the security alarm systems, video surveillance, grate locks, limited access, and that kind of stuff. When we look at the surrounding property businesses, they're pretty much everything's commercial around there. You have Lava Express Laundromat, the First American Bank, cafes, insurance office, hair salons, O'Reilly's out there, Dollar General. Those are just some of the businesses. So, staff believes that the cannabis retail establishment is consistent with some of the uses that are already there. And during construction of the new building, if approved, the applicant will implement the best management practices that are identified, noted, and included in the reviews and conditions. So we believe that the applicant meets the decisional criteria for SUPs. The findings, like I said, they're already in your packet. We do believe that it meets the decisional criteria. It is consistent with the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the county per the intent of the UDC, and the property is zoned a T5. The 300-foot requirement, it's to a residential area. That's what's triggering the special use permit. There are no schools or daycare centers within 300 feet of the subject parcel. And the P&Z does have the right to apply conditions to a special use permit in order to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. But that's the end of our presentation. We are recommending a conditional approval for this SUP. Condition number one, of course, that the applicant gets all the required building permits that are applicable and meet the criteria for construction, fire, and life safety codes, and also to get that driveway permit from county engineering, just to address any access requirements. But that will be part of the building permitting stage.
Questions?
Just one, Mr. Chair. Albert, any reason why staff, I believe I know the answer to this, just based on the size of the parcel and its vicinity to the next establishment, being retail or commercial. Any reason why staff wouldn't recommend any kind of buffer or screening on the property?
On this one, buffer and landscaping, I mean, we can include it in there, but that's going to be addressed during the building permitting stage as well.
Okay.
The one reason why let me go back to the aerial. When we look at the buffering requirements, it states that if the properties are vacant, okay, they don't really require a buffer. But that's not to say that this commission may recommend that as well. But the way the code reads right now for buffering, really because those properties are vacant, they don't really need to include any buffering. There has to be landscaping, but that's addressed during the building permitting stage. But that could be a recommendation as well from the P&Z.
The reason that the last time we made a exception to the 300-foot rule, we did have a small, I think we did have a small screen requirement there. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, is there any reason why, is there a specific reason why the access is off of that southern road rather than McCombs? I mean, it seems like to me like the access off McCombs would be much shorter and also fit in with the commercial businesses that are along McCombs.
Yeah, that was the proposal by the applicant, so he can address that issue. Also, with talks with the engineering, I think it would be their preference to limit access off of McCombs and have him off of Paseo Real in this case. But I did get that comment just by talking with them. But like I said, they will be required to get a driveway permit.
Yeah.
But that'll be during the building permitting stage. But right now, this is from the applicant's request. That's what he's proposing.
Okay, thank you.
Albert, there's no designated left-hand turn lane on McCombs, is there?
Not that I could see out there.
I'm sorry?
Not that I could see when I was out there yesterday.
All right.
It's basically, you got the road and then you got right away. That's it.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Martinez?
Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
She's going to swear you in.
I'm sorry?
Eileen will swear you in.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Hector Martinez. My address is 207 West Spring Dove Road in Anthony, New Mexico.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Not much to add to what Mr. Casillas has already summarized very well, unless you all have some specific questions for me.
Dan, did you have a question? You wanted to ask about the access.
Yeah, I'm curious as to why you chose to have the access to this business off the southern road rather than what seems to be a much shorter entryway to get to that business by coming off of McCombs on the west side.
The reason that that we thought we would access off of the side road is to minimize the impact on McCombs traffic-wise.
Okay, so McCombs is a much,
being a state road and stuff, a lot more traffic on there, which is a good location for the business. But access-wise, I think it'd be safer, less impact on traffic on McCombs if we use a side road.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's actually a good idea.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions for Mr. Martinez? Mel, are you with us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep. Do you have a question?
Yeah. No, I don't have any questions. But Mr. Martinez is correct, and McCombs is a very heavily trafficked road and safer on the other side.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or opposition? I guess not. All right, discussion by commission. Any comments, questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mel. Mel, just a second. Just so you know, that's Commissioner Acosta that's speaking. Go ahead, Mel.
The buffer, is it going to be an economic hardship on Mr. Martinez, or I don't know. I'm just leaving it up to the commission, but if it's an economic issue. Is he willing to commit to a buffer zone? A buffer, some sort of a buffer?
We're getting an echo, Mel. It's very hard to understand what you're saying.
Is it going to be an economic condition for Mr. Martinez?
Did you get that?
Sounded like something like transmission.
Mel, you have an echo and we can't understand what you're saying.
Mel, I hate to speak a little slower.
Is it an economic condition?
Economic condition?
Or is it going to be something that Mr. Martinez will be willing to do on a buffer zone?
Yeah. Mel, do you have your phone?
Yes.
Eileen's going to give you a call. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
see, and I'll put it up.
No, you have to answer.
The number I have should be correct, right? 449.
Hello? 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 Hello?
Just a second, Mel.
Mr. Acosta, did you get my call on your cell phone?
Yes, I did. Yes, I answered.
We can hear him now.
Why don't you get into it? Mel? Go ahead. Could you give us your number to be safe? Maybe we've got an old number.
No, I've got it.
Yeah, I got a number, 449-6221. That's good.
I'm calling.
You calling the 449 number?
That's the one I called.
All right.
No answer.
We all get the same number, so it's.
Mel, get closer to your microphone and tell us what your issue was.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I was just thinking if Mr. Martinez would be willing to put up a buffer zone.
Albert suggested that that would be considered during building permit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Anybody else?
And Chair, just to clarify, when it comes to buffering, even though it's a T5 and there's T3 surrounding it, it's vacant, so it doesn't really require a buffer. There will be landscaping requirements being implemented in there, but technically buffer is not required. But like I said, I mean, if that's one of the conditions that the P&Z wants to implement, then that's something that you guys can do or recommend.
So, Mr. Chair, just to address that concern, wouldn't necessarily suggest a full landscape buffer requirement. However, during the building permit process, just to consider really just to consider this property that is adjacent to 401 McCombs. And the reason being because we are making an exception to the 300-foot rule. So if there would be some kind of landscape requirement just to address that, specific to that property.
Yes, Commissioner Montañez, Chair Zerniak, if the property next to it wasn't vacant, then a buffer type 1 would have been required. So next to the T3, a buffer type 1 would have been required. A buffer between this property and the northern property, which is also T5, doesn't require any type of buffering. But if it's next to a T3, and if there was a house there, then a buffer type 1 would have been required.
Thank you. That gives a lot more clarity. Thank you very much.
I'll consider a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve case number SU 21-013 for conditional approval with a staff recommendation that any new construction proposed to be used for the cannabis establishment will be required to meet all applicable construction, fire, and safety codes. And the applicant shall obtain a driveway permit from county engineering to address access requirements.
That's from, not from Macomb, right?
No, not from McCombs.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The street, what is the street name? Okay, Paseo Real. So let me just restate the,
Okay.
staff recommendation. The applicant shall obtain a driveway permit from county engineer to address access requirements from Paseo Real to the retail establishment.
Second, please.
Second the motion.
All right, you second it? Okay. Any further discussion? Eileen, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Zargis,
Yes.
Commissioner Herrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Montañez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lear,
Yes.
Commissioner Acosta, Commissioner Castañeda,
Yes.
Chair Zerniak.
Yes. Thank you. Motion is approved.
Thank you very much.
Administrative approvals? Janine?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Billy, if you can pull up the map for the June report, please. That's also in your agenda packet on the last page. But for the month of June, we issued 22 new single-family residential permits. Okay. There we go. Okay. So what you can see on the map before you in yellow are the 22 new single-family residential permits that we issued for June. And in addition, the blue on the map in the northern part of the county was a new commercial building, and that was for a greenhouse. And then what is not mapped are 22 additions to single-family residential, 32 additions, and there were 6 additions to commercial buildings, and then we issued a total of 27 mobile home installation permits, 16 being on private land and 11 in mobile home parks. And so in terms of permit fees, we brought in $72,500 in permit fees for June.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Those 2 permits there in Barino, are that for residential?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But those are all single-family residential units? They're not mobile homes?
No, these are all single family.
Wow.
Yes. And then those 2, I believe, are the, in the Parque Home subdivision. In the Parque Home subdivision for Tierra del Sol.
Yeah, I was just interested because I'm from Anthony, so I need.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's the new subdivision, I believe, too, right? I believe it's the new subdivision, too. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any further discussion? Any other staff input?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to take the opportunity at this time to introduce Charlene. She's our temporary planner. Charlene Santiesteban.
Hi,
She's been with
Charlene.
us a few weeks now.
Welcome
So she's
aboard,
helping us out so
Charlene.
we can recruit permanent planners. We've been having a hard time
Welcome.
A hard time what?
recruiting. Yes.
Okay.
We have
Don't
two
feel like the
positions.
Lone Ranger, it's everybody lately.
So you have 2 vacant planner positions right now?
Yes, 2 vacant planner, 1 planning assistant, 2 code enforcement officers. What else?
Did I hear Frank was getting ready to retire?
Yes. Looks like it November, October, November.
That's GIS. So Alma will be your lone GIS tech?
Yes.
Or whatever her title is? I don't.
Yeah, GIS analyst. We have JR in there also.
Okay. Any commission input? No? Welcome back, Charlene. Okay, I guess we will stand adjourned. There's no further business.
Thank you.
And we will have a meeting next week. We have 2 or 3 cases.
maybe I'll see you on the road again.